Hello, Expat Explore community. Here we are back again with On the Road. This is episode 15. So we are joined with Luke from the UK.
Hello.
We have Matt down in Australia. We also have Vic in New Zealand. And this lovely new face is Rachelle. She's down in Sydney, Australia as well. So she'll be joining us for this week's episode. This week's episode, we're going to be focusing mainly on the most beautiful drives in Europe. So we're mainly going to be talking about how what our drivers get up to and what they love the most, and that is driving, if you can imagine. So some of the best drives that we're going to talk about is my favorite one. I'll start it off. My favorite one, I like to call this the ambulance drive. And this is the drive between, I know, just wait for it. This
Strong start, Brandon.
I know.
I remember the joke.
Florence, I know, I have a joke. It's in the chamber. So this drive is along the Riviera, so either the French and the Italian Riviera. And what you do is you either drive from Florence into Nice in France, or you go Nice to Florence, and you drive along the Riviera. So if you're going from Italy, you come up and over the Italian Riviera, you pass the Cinque Terre, and you actually go through about 160 different tunnels. And on your left-hand side is the ocean, and you drive along the cliffs. So why I call it the ambulance drive, and this actually came from one of my drivers. He likes to make jokes about all the drives, and it's because you can hear in the background of the coach, wow, 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 wow.
That is like drivers
Absolutely.
always have special jokes, and like driver jokes, they're almost on par with dad jokes, but they're slightly worse.
They a little bit
And
worse.
that is such a good example of a classic driver joke.
And then you get like someone like Jude, who's like dad jokes combined with driver jokes.
And they just
Fully
keep
bad.
flying.
Hi, Jude.
Hi, Jude. Jude also watches us. Jude, what's your
you and
favorite?
Just come back to that drive you're talking about. That is my least favorite drive because I've only done it once, and we got stuck in traffic for 5 hours on that drive, and so it was so hot. It was when we had that big heat wave last year, and we were driving from Pisa to Nice, and we were just stuck in this traffic jam, and everyone was losing their marbles, and I was like trying to keep everyone entertained and happy. And my driver at one point, he just got out of his seat and he was walking around the coach giving massages to passengers. Really interesting one, good old Scottish will. And like it was just, there was nothing left to do. We just weren't moving for 5 hours. We were stuck on that road. So I have very dark memories of that drive. I feel like I need to reach more
So what's your favourite drive then, Luke?
Well, my favourite drive, and I feel like I'm coming back to it again and again and again, is on the GBIR.
Oh God! It's the Ring of Kerry.
It's not the Ring of Kerry. It could be the Ring of Kerry, but it's not the Ring of Kerry.
Oh, thank goodness!
I know. I nearly went there. I was tempted. I still am. Ring of Kerry is a great drive. But it is the drive after the first night when you stay in Scotland, and you drive up through the Glencoe Valley. Yes, and it's one of my favourite drives of all time generally, but we just so happen to also do one of my favourite drives in the world on an expat tour, which is the GBIR, and this is where you wake up at Loch Long and you drive around Loch Lomond, so you get the morning mists at like 6:30, 7 Loch Lomond, and then as you come up from Loch Lomond, you're going up through the Highlands, up to Glencoe. You see the three sisters, the three main peaks of Glencoe. Drive down through the valley, and then like you've got one of my favourite stories about the Glencoe massacre, and you start to talk about all your clan culture.
That just brings back. All I can hear is the song, the Glencoe song.
And it's such a beautiful piece of music. And then that's your first taste of Scotland, the Scottish Highlands in daylight, because you arrive by night the night before. And then that sets you up for the day to go to Fort William and then up to the Commander Memorial. You're going to go to Loch Ness that day, and just that whole day is just like the best parts of the Scottish Highlands and the scenery.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And again, it's very much just full of wow. So it's
Wow.
a bit of an ambition.
Wow.
I'm going to steal that joke, by the way, and I'm going to use that
Yeah.
constantly because that is absolutely brilliant, and I love it. But yeah, for me, it is the Glencoe Valley and that whole day generally, but that specific part of it is just absolutely phenomenal.
What about
very
you,
good.
Vic?
So I can't choose, right? So
No.
This is an ongoing
Tell the
topic.
Vic's
Question.
she's gonna
The
pick
Vic
like little
can't
segments
choose,
of every.
okay, so I was actually going to choose your one, Brandon. So that's definitely one of my favorite drives. And funny you mention the tunnels because it's actually one of the games that I play with my passengers on that drive. And I think some people absolutely hate me for doing this, but I get them to count the tunnels. And
Yeah.
you guys probably do that too. I mean, it's a tour
I do.
leader trick. Yeah. And, people think maybe there's going to be like 20 or something. And as you said, there's over 160.
Yeah.
And it's just such a spectacular drive. Like how those Italians, I mean, because mainly it's in Italy, have built those tunnels and like bridges.
The architecture of them is incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, because you picked it, I'll choose another one. I mean, I love scenery like most people, but it's just, I just, that's why my favorite place in the world is at the front of a bus, just looking out the window when we're driving past amazing scenery. So it's really, really, really hard to pick. But I think I'm just going to go for any drive into Switzerland, anywhere in Switzerland.
Any time you hit the Alps, it's just
it's just such a fascinating country. Yeah, like I'm obsessed with their OCD and their neatness. So not just the beautiful like mountains and scenery. Like I love their wood piles. I just love how everything's so neat and organized.
And when they make them into pictures, so you see their their wooden chalets, and there's like pictures made out of the different color woods.
And the window boxes with the flowers are so perfect.
And they just
exactly. Like it just, I mean, that country is just like perfect. It's perfection. Like I love driving through Switzerland. Anywhere where there's water, really, water, lakes, mountains, sea view. I just love it. I love it all. Like that's why it blows my mind. Sorry, people who do this. When people pull the curtain and go to sleep on our drive.
You always announce, like, I always get the heads up, like, this is not a curtain drive. This is a drive where you want the curtains open, and even if you sleep, allow the person next to you to be seen out the window, because there are certain parts of those drives where the scenery is the big highlight of that day, especially that drive from Paris to Switzerland. It's a big drive day, and the highlight of the day is the scenery whilst you're driving,
Yeah. It's not always about the destination; it's about the journey as well.
Oh man,
and definitely. I was going to go Switzerland as well, Vic. Just the drive in and drive out. Just as you cross the border, and you've got time for like one song, and then you come onto that overpass, and then the valley opens up, and you look out, and everyone's just like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
the mountain range is like that's amazing. And then when you're leaving, to head south in a few days' time, you've got more spectacular driving. So yeah, definitely good.
It starts when you go past Chateau de Joux, and you've got that beautiful castle on that rock jutting out from the side of the river. It's like 20 minutes before you get to the border. It's like that moment there. I always like bust out the Game of Thrones theme tune for no reason other than there's a castle. That's where from that point on, curtains open. That's where the good scene is.
What about, do you guys like when you're driving, obviously you like it, but like this is another thing for me that I find amazing when you're driving through the Italian like hills in Tuscany, and there's all the hilltop towns with like I just love it. Like look at it in awe, like it's the first time I'm seeing it. Every single time I'm just like, I want to be up
I
there.
get so excited. My group's like, Brandon, I want to sleep, and I'm look at these towns.
Look at that.
These towns. Let me tell you about the de-Romanization of Europe.
So what about our special guest, our colleague? What is your favorite
I think we skipped Max. We want to save the best for last.
It's because Max beautifully profound statement of the journey being more important than the destination. That was his piece.
That was it.
I don't get to nominate.
But it's true.
Drive.
It is true.
Well, I'm going to go with something a little bit controversial here. And my favorite drive is just driving through Paris. Like,
True.
I'm sure our drivers might disagree because they've got to put up with
that's their
Parisian traffic. But that's the great thing about our drivers, how they can get through those streets. But as a
so you like a good bouchon, Matt?
Well, just think about it. Like, you're driving through, and you're like, you've got the Arc de Triomphe. Now we're down the Champs-Elysees. You got the Jardin des Tuileries. There's the Eiffel Tower. There's the Louvre. And you're just driving past all these amazing monuments. It's just like from one thing to the next. Like, it's spectacular.
Also, it's the big driving tour that we get to do, isn't it? It's our big driving tour
on that first day.
Yeah,
it's pretty.
It's the end of such a long day, and it's such a magical way to end it. And everyone's tired, but then they're just overwhelmed by the mastery that is Paris. My favorite city in the world.
If you can time it and get the
if you can get those
on the Eiffel Tower, then
I know
it's just a great way to top it off.
I like to distract them. If you come around the back of it, the back of the Champ de Mars, and you talk about the École Militaire, I talk about Napoleon, and maybe some people use the teddy bear in the corner, but distract them out to the left, and they're like, "I'm only kidding. Look to the right," and then it's like, And if you can time it, Sometimes drivers are fantastic at that because they're like, "Brandon, we need to roll." I'm like, "No, I want to talk more," and they're like, "No, we need to go," because they time that perfectly, and then the lights go. Yeah, amazing. Okay, Rachelle. What?
All right. Well, so I actually, my favorite drive is essentially an entire tour, and to be honest, I'm a little reluctant.
Spanner in the works.
Yeah, I'm actually a little reluctant to talk about it.
We can bend the rules.
Well, I'm a bit hesitant to actually tell you guys about this because you've all just said that you haven't guided this tour, and there's actually only a handful of departures each year, and Dee and I usually get them and fight amongst ourselves for them. So I think I only get about 2 a year. So I kind of don't want to tell you guys about this because I don't want fighting to go.
You don't want secrets out.
This is my favorite. This is absolutely hands down my favorite tour ever in the world. Like, it is just incredible. So it's the Scenic Europe Tour, and the name absolutely sums it up. And like, this is, you were talking about passengers, pulling the curtains and sleeping. Like, I tell my group from the first day of this tour, there is no sleeping on this tour. You are not allowed to sleep on the coach.
You will not sleep.
I tell them, I get on the mic and constantly wake them up.
I have an alarm I'm going to ring every time.
There's only there's like 2 segments of drive days where I'm like, okay, you may sleep now. That's it. That's just when we hit the motorway in Italy. But before that, so basically, the tour starts in Munich. And first day, we're heading down to Neuschwanstein Castle. And so I think you would have done the scenery. A lot of the times we do it in reverse. Yeah. But this time, going from Munich to Neuschwanstein, absolutely just gorgeous. You feel like Hobbitland. There's all these rolling hills, and it's just beautiful as you're coming down through Bavaria. After Neuschwanstein, we then head down to Innsbruck. And it is just the most spectacular mountain drive, like, as you're coming down and you get to this point where you're coming down the pass and then you see Innsbruck laid out in front of you. And I mean, we're crossing by, you've got those little rivers running alongside the coach, and they're like crystal clear water. And it's one of those ambulance drives.
Almost like a turquoisey blue, Yeah. I love that. I love how on board you all are about this ambulance drive.
It's so true. It's so true. And also, actually, I almost feel like on this tour, that sometimes I feel like the whole coach is going to tip because everyone's like leaning to the as you're coming down those mountain passes, and everyone's like looking with their cameras out one side and then they turn to the other side. So then after Innsbruck, then we head up into Switzerland. So we've got all of the beautiful scenery in Switzerland, and we stop in Lucerne along the way, and they have time in Lucerne. We stop in Liechtenstein as well, and Lucerne, they have time there, and then we come into my favorite place in the entire planet, which is Switzerland, the Interlaken region, the Jungfrau region. It's just it makes me want to cry every single time I go there. And every time I leave, I do cry because I'm it's actually the place that got me started with guiding, because I was
I mean, it's just, all of it's so beautiful. And that you were talking about the Jungfrau Valley, and, you know, even something like Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien actually went in and he used that for Rivendell in the Lord of the Rings series. So, you know, a valley that's almost a kilometer wide and 72 waterfalls that flow over these dramatic Swiss
and these
peaks,
cliffs that are like 1,500 feet on each side. It's just
you
incredible.
almost don't know where to look. It's so
you don't, and it's like every day on this tour, it's like, you know, everyone's kind of thinking, how can it possibly get better? And then it does. Like, it just keeps getting better, you know? And you're coming in, and then they've got their time in Switzerland, and you go up to Jungfrau, and you see, you know, the Valley Lauterbrunnen, and it's just this incredible scenery. And then from there, we go down to the Lakes District in Italy. And so you've got, again, another, like, more mountainous scenery, but slightly, you know, very, like, a really different look as well. And we have Lake Como, and then we actually stay in the Lakes District at Lake Iseo, which is the fourth largest lake in Italy. And it's just spectacular. And you've got all these gorgeous little towns along the way. And, you know, we stay in one of those little towns, and you can swim in the lake, and it's just, you know, absolutely divine. And then we head down into the Tuscan region. So, like Vicky mentioned, the little towns on top of the hills. So we have those drives down towards that region. You get to see that as well. And then on the final day of this tour, so we head up to Venice, and then on the very last day, from Venice to Munich, we actually drive through the Dolomite National Park. And it's like, I honestly, and it's like, it's just incredible. It's amazing. And it's like, how can this, you know, tour get any better? You know, just every single mountain scenery is just, it blows your mind. And it's really awesome too, because we have this whole incredible morning driving through the Dolomites. And again, everyone's just at the windows. And just,
you know, fruit trees everywhere.
It's but we go through the Dolomite National Park. Not many other expat tours go through the net. So you go through actually into the mountain. So you're actually climbing up into, and we're passing these tiny little villages, you know, that kind of look like some sort of mix between an Austrian village with an Italian slant on it. And it's just, you know, we stop. Our morning break, we stop at this little lake in the middle of the mountains, and you're actually, there's a little Austrian style chalet there, and but of course it's in Italy, but everyone's speaking German at that area in the dirndls, and it's just it's incredible. And you get this coffee and cake, and you sit there,
but then walking around like this.
Sorry, any Italians watching?
Sorry.
And then like even after the Dolomite, because you know, you just keep thinking, wow, the scenery is not, it can't get any better, but it's so different. You know, after we come out of the Dolomite National Park, we head into that sort of rolling green foothills again, and you've got all the, you know, the cows again, and this, you know, with their bells and beautiful pastures, and we end up at the Andex monastery.
Andex.
So we finish up the tour there, where they have the brewery, where the monks have been brewing beer. It's like hundreds of years.
So that tour is called the Scenic.
Yeah, just going to make a note of that, because
Scenic
Europe Tour.
If Greg's listening, you know.
Greg, I want them all, please.
It sounds like you do get to see a lot of that on some of the bigger tours, though, as well. Like, say, Best of Europe covers most of that off as well, but obviously,
but like you don't get to do a lot of the. You don't get to do
one.
Yeah.
And the thing about this, we have, you know, a lot of our tours, you have those spectacular scenery days and drive days at some point in the tour, but this is like the entire tour. There's really only basically 2 days where you're on Italian motorway, and it's like, that's where I let people go to sleep if they wish. But every other day it's just, the drives are out of this world.
Yeah,
it's
it does
absolutely
sound
gorgeous. And of course, I'm down the front of the coach, like in the front
Yeah.
view, like, oh
You
man.
just wouldn't get any work done.
This
You'd
is where I
just
feel like
be-
I would be such a bad driver because I get so distracted.
I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
And how these drivers
You would stand
focus
up
on the
there,
road and they're not there looking at everything as they're trying to drive. I get my little car sometimes and I'm there like, oh, what? There's a road in front of me. No, don't look up there.
Exactly. And those roads are so windy, all those mountain passes as well. And just, you know, like they don't get to enjoy the scenery. Like we can just look out.
But you know, I think
it.
that's what the drive is like, is those windy roads. Especially our coaches corner so well. They really enjoy the driving. You know, they get bored on motorways, I think. So those trips must be amazing for drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's where everyone really gets to see how skilled they are as well, because there's, you know, these passes, like, you know, the Brunig Pass when you're coming out of Switzerland and you're going up, and there's those hairpin bends, and everyone, the coach is like, whoa, and sort of clapping as you go around those corners. The driver's like, oh,
you guys are making, you're making me miss our drivers. Like, actually, how good are our drivers? Like, where they're just
incredible.
So helpful. And I feel for them as well, because sorry, Brandon, just quickly, like,
no,
you know,
you're fine.
Talking about this time that we're going through, and we keep talking about tour leaders having a hard time, but speaking to some of our driver friends during this time as well, and they're like, I just miss those drives. I just want to drive through the mountains with, you know.
Yeah. Do you think they're missing us as much as we miss them?
Huh?
Do you think the drivers are missing us as much as we're missing them?
They are.
I think so.
Yeah.
They are. Definitely.
I think we're quite nice to miss.
Yeah. So obviously, Rachelle, you've just sold me on this tour.
No, it's mine. It's mine. I'm going to write to Greg.
You've already.
Greg's already listening.
Yeah, but you've got, because
Greg's not listening.
We literally can't jump on it because you've already got it locked down for next year, don't you, Rachelle?
I do. I have one locked down. I'm going to write to Greg and ask another one as well.
Yeah.
So how do we travel with you?
Dean,
so if we want to, because obviously we can't do it as guides, if we want to come as guests on your tour with you next year.
You may come as guests. I'm not going to allow you to guide it because I want all of these.
We'll start the ambulance in the back.
You can be the ambulance. You know, you can spread out and make sure that all the curtains are open and no one is allowed to sleep through it. Yes, I will allow that happily. Please join me. So yeah, I have one on the 8th of October next year.
8th of October.
Yeah, which is such a great time as well, because, you know, there's the potential for it to actually be snowing when you go up Jungfrau.
Oh, no.
Always really exciting.
Yeah, it's snowing, but not too cold yet. It's not so busy because summer's winding down. Everyone's left.
Yeah,
I would imagine a tour like that you'd like to do on the shoulders of the season as well, so that it's
especially for Italy.
Slow, it's relaxing. Yeah.
The autumnal colours in Switzerland are one of my favourite moments of any tour I've done, and I still go back and look at the pictures I've got of when I did my early November tour. So just coming out the end of autumn, and like you watch the colours change as the altitude of the mountain changes on the side of those forested parts, like around the Interlaken area. And it's just ridiculous.
Switzerland almost turns into a kaleidoscope as the season changes. It just, the colors of Switzerland change so much.
This is one thing I said to Carl once. I wanted to get the Alpenrose. They should get like a time-lapse camera throughout the seasons looking up the valley to watch the color changes of the leaves.
And just kind of like watching the snow come in and come out again.
Yeah, because it does too. You know, you get the dusting of snow overnight sometimes, but then it melts away and then it's,
And then
the whole country is a marshmallow in winter, like completely covered in snow, 100%. Like.
With the bluest blue sky you've ever seen.
It is just hands down like the most beautiful country. Like you said, it's just perfect. Everything, everything about it is a postcard.
Yeah. I miss you. I do actually. I lived in Switzerland for 2 years, just very, very quickly. And yeah, like I love the scenery. I love the scenery, but it is a bit of a strange place to live for a long time, I must admit.
I would, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Where you in? Which part were you
The
in?
rules. The
Yeah.
rules. I lived in St. Moritz, so
and
in the southeast.
Okay, and speaking of rules, you made sure you didn't flush your toilet after 10 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah.
Definitely not. Definitely not. And you know, St. Moritz, you know that one language we always talk about when we're in Switzerland where we say this language?
Mm-hmm.
That's the one place or the one canton where they actually use that language.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty
It'd
cool.
be very interesting to actually hear. I talk about it, but I've
Yeah.
never actually heard it.
Same.
Yeah, no, it
Can
is.
you give us any examples, Vic?
Yeah, do you know any?
No pressure.
No. I know they
You
say.
spent 2 years there, Vic.
They say eins, zwei, drei, and then they say fufi.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
but I think they say that all in.
Is that a little beer? I want
like
a little
eins, zwei,
beer.
drei, vier.
Oh, that's
no,
counting.
Eins, zwei, drei, vier,
That sounds
fünf.
German.
Yeah, but
Sounds very German.
eins, zwei, drei, vier, fufi or something. I don't know. And they say grüezi there, but that's what they say in Lauterbrunnen. So yeah, I don't know any Romansh. I know that they call us croissant a Gipfeli, but is that also in the rest
That's
of
a cool word.
That's also
Gipfeli.
Gipfeli?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that wraps us up for episode 15 of On the Road.
Yes. So I reckon if any people who are watching this video want to share their favorite drives, any drivers would like to comment and share their favorite drives as well. Yes.
Yeah, any drivers want to volunteer to come on one of our episodes?
Yeah,
We need to get some drivers.
We miss you.
Because I thought Chris was coming, and I tried to get Chris, and then he said no, he was too shy.
Chris is not shy.
I've seen him bust some dance moves. He's not shy.
Get into rap.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got to.
No,
we can get
I don't
Minty
mean that,
on
Chris.
to come and sing.
Oh, another Chris. Okay.
Yeah. Minty, the TikTok king, he's become
TikTok
known.
king.
Is Minty make TikToks on tour?
Yeah, some of them are terrifying. Not on tour, just in his life.
Yeah, no, just in his life in general. He's a wonderful, wonderful driver to work with. He cares a lot about you and the guests. He loves to sing.
I was gonna say you have to get him to sing.
Yeah. He's got a fantastic voice.
Yeah.
Brandon, are you going to tell? Before we go? Are you going to tell your story about your favorite driver?
Not so much favorite driver, just more like certain things really make it for me when you're working with drivers. One of my favorite drivers to work with. I won't mention their name, but just little things and nuances. And when I was starting out and I was in my first year as being a guide, doing certain history talks is quite intimidating. And especially if you've got guests that know quite a lot, you do get a bit intimidated. And one of the things my driver did is every time I did a lengthy talk, I would sit down and he would give me a fist bump. So just to kind of support me, and that made my heart really happy. So it's one of the things I love the most about our drivers,
Aww, that's so nice.
They really become like their family on the road. Like that's all we have on the road. You just reminded me of one time when I was I got laryngitis, which is horrendous when you're working. And I was really, really ill. I had no voice whatsoever, and it felt like I was swallowing razor blades. And I was still having to work, and I had like horrible fever. And I remember I phoned, this was not with Expat, this was another company, and I phoned up and I was like barely able to talk, and they're like, you need to get to hospital. And we just arrived at the campground where we were staying, and I got all the passengers out, and I just burst into tears because I was so sick. And both my drivers, so we had a changeover there, and so the driver I was working with was so concerned about me, and then the driver that was going to be working with me the next day as well, and they were both just like looking after me. And then one of them took me to hospital because he had days off the next day, and we were in hospital the entire night, and he was, you know, making sure that like he got blankets for me because I was freezing with fever and everything. And I mean, we didn't get back until I think, I don't know, 3 a.m. or something. And he was just, yeah. And they were just, you know, checking up on me, and they were following up afterwards with messages and making sure I was okay. And it's just, you know, because they're the family that you have when you're on the road.
They're your rock.
Yeah,
you know? Support
that's
system.
true. Yeah, and you spend a lot of time with them on, like, if you do more than one tour, you really get to know who they are. It's funny that you said that, Brandon, because that's obviously a really big confidence boost. And one of my favorite drivers of all times, again, I won't mention their name, but they told me, because we talk about little things, and they said, yeah, every time a tour leader does a spiel and sits back down, I say to them, that's one of the best speeches I've ever heard. No matter if it is or if it isn't.
Don't say that, because now every time I get told that by a driver, I know they're just lying. I'm probably giving awful speeches.
Laughing while they're saying it, like, well,
I thought all my speeches were great.
No, but you know what I mean? Just to, like, especially if you did maybe do one that's not, just to make, just because they're nice.
Important as well. Like, and basically you're there to make it, like, you know, when a driver's pulling a maneuver that's maybe particularly challenging, you make sure that the passengers know that they've just done this amazing maneuver. They give them a round of applause. And it's so nice when a driver reciprocates that by just telling you what a good job you're doing. And because, you know, it can be nerve-wracking sometimes from a driver's perspective or a tour leader's perspective, depending on what you're doing on that day. And just to have someone there that is a professional that you respect within the industry to tell you you're doing a good job can make such a huge difference to how you perceive yourself and how you're feeling about the job you're doing. I feel like such a big part of the driver tour leader relationship is to keep each other's morale up throughout the tour. You know, some of these tours, you're on there 26 days together, non-stop with groups, and you
become weirdly close.
A bit of psychological massaging and you become weirdly close, but it's a beautiful weirdness.
Like, you always buy each other a coffee, right? And just always looking out for each other.
Always.
Yeah. Oh, nice to reminisce about our drives and our drivers.
Cool. And we've got a couple of minutes to go, just to throw that in there.
Wrap up.
Let's wrap up, because we're going to run out of time, is what I'm saying. The time is ticking. We're literally about to run out of time. So that was a subtle hint.
That was very subtle.
I saw your girlfriend in the corner. That's why you want to go, don't you? She's it.
Headphones off.
No, I mean, it literally, I can see the countdown of the timer in the corner of the video.
Okay, all right. So, should we sign off?
Okay, well, so Expat Explore community, thank you so much for listening in to us again. Rachelle, thank you so much for joining us. Lovely to see your face. And that's goodbye from me here in South Africa.
And also, we'll put anyone who wants to join Rachelle on the tour, we're going to put her dates in the description so they can see the dates and how they can join your lovely self on your even more lovely tour. Goodbye from Liverpool from me. Yeah, see you.
Bye from New Zealand.
Goodbye from the Gold Coast.
Goodbye from Sydney.
What?